Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite aos que estão assistindo mais um webinário da série de seminários do Instituto de Computação. E agora eu vou continuar em inglês. I have the pleasure to present Professor Perihan Elif Ekmekci from Turkey, who is an expert on medicine, ethics, and history of medicine. And she is a full professor of Department of History of Medicine and Ethics at TOBB University Medical Faculty in Turkey. She has a very extensive CV full of accomplishments, and she has had very many prizes and degrees. And she's going to talk about something which is very much interesting and is her expertise. And you'll see she's an excellent speaker. Reflections on AI and ethics. Elif, thank you so much for coming to Brazil. Okay. And please, you can start at any time, and you have, I don't know, about 45 minutes or so, but
Mhm,
people may interrupt to those who are in the room.
mhm.
Todo mundo que está na sala, se quiser alguma interrupção, manda pelo. Levanta a mãozinha ou manda pelo chat que eu estou acompanhando. Anybody who wants to interrupt, raise their hands or send a message via chat. Elif, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to, talk to you. And I see lots of colleagues from Brazil right now, and I guess there are some other colleagues from other parts of the world, maybe. So I'd like to start by saying hello. And it's really a pleasure for me to, share my thoughts on AI and ethics, and especially the latest advancement in Gen AI. So I'll just try to share my screen with you to show you my slides. I made several practices to do it right away. So I hope.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Good. So now let's start again. It's better to start again.
Okay, so sorry for this inconvenience. So let me start again. Today we're going to speak about some reflections on AI, and more specifically Gen AI and ethics. And we're going to try to answer the question if we are heading in the right direction. Slide, please. So this question, there's some animation. So please, yeah, thank you. So this question was especially on by the latest event that the guy who was known as the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, quit from Google because of his ethical concerns regarding the emerge of Gen AI. Slide, please. And again, slide, please. So why are we asking this question now? Because the AI, the developments in AI is really exponential. So what happened? The improvements that we had since the Dartmouth College summer school, probably we are going to have that amount of improvements in 1 or 2 months within the next years. So the exponential growth of AI creates some kind of an ethical awareness with coming together with the AI hype. And also the applications which are made possible by AI and big data, and the opportunities brought by AI, especially in the field of healthcare, which can provide huge improvements. Just pull the attention of everybody who are involved in the AI to the ethical concerns that are being amplified by the generative AI. Slide, please. So we also saw that the Future of Life Institute just issued an open letter to pause giant experiments on AI, and also some very popular characters like Elon Musk signed it, and this was one of the things that drew public attention. Slide, please. In fact, again, slide, please. So these questions are not really very new in the field of AI. For example, Asimov, he just talked about three laws on robotics, and I'd like to draw your attention that he is talking about a human being in his three laws of robotics. But somehow, in his lifetime, probably he got enlightened that the robots, please read robots as AI now. AI has the carries the risk not to only one individual at a time, but also to all humanity. Slide, please. So he issued the Zero's law, which said that a robot may not injure humanity or through inaction allow humanity to come to harm. So I think this was one of the first times that the existential risk that AI poses to humanity. Slide, please. And then there's another very influential figure in the history of artificial intelligence, Joseph Weizenbaum. He was one of the person who was involved in the development of the first expert system on psychiatry. And when he saw that the AI worked in such a way that very similar to human doctors, he said he has to take a few years off to work on the ethical implications of AI that he's working. And he said that the computer technology, and again, please read that as AI, should not be allowed if there are some huge risks for unforeseen irreversible risks. And also he said that AI should be avoided from areas which need interpersonal respect, understanding, and love. And probably medicine is one of them, of course. Slide, please. And more contemporary conducts or codes of ethics are one of them is the Montreal Declaration for Responsible Development of Artificial Intelligence. This is an important document because it was prepared by the participation of several stakeholders, and it was issued in 2018. And then comes the European Commission, the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI in 2019. Slide, please. Of course, these codes are important because they're telling the ethical norms that should be applied to artificial intelligence from the moment of design to deployment and dissemination. And this was one of the papers that I published together with a few colleagues, with a critical perspective on responsible and trustworthy artificial intelligence. And we were very much talking about the impact of the Montreal Declaration and the EU guidelines. Slide, please. So, what is the problem with these ethical guidelines? Let me say, I think they're really important because they are setting the global ethical norms in general for artificial intelligence, but there are two very important problems with them. The first one is the question: who is the interlocutor? Let's have a look at the one of the paragraphs of Montreal Declaration. Montreal Declaration says that any person, organization, or company that wishes to take part in responsible development of artificial intelligence should be concerned with Montreal Declaration or other guidelines on AI. So if these norms are talking to everyone, so basically, slide please, no one takes the real responsibility. I think that's one of the problem. For example, a public surveillance system, slide please. This
Is this a,
person,
yeah.
slide please. Thank you. So this young gentleman, he's a genius, and he's one of the members of the team which developed the public surveillance system, depending on the appearance of people. They don't have to see the faces, but they can just recognize who that person is, or make some kind of a risk assessment depending on the body language of the person in cloud. So it's kind of a public surveillance system. And in his video, he was having an interview with a person, and he was really very excited about what he created. And at some point, they asked him um, about the ethical implications, and they asked if he has any concerns about the ethical implications of his application. And at that point, he was just blank. He couldn't answer the question because um, probably he never thought about it. His main drive, his main motivation was just to launch this application as soon as possible, and he wanted to make it work, but he didn't even consider the ethical implications. So that is why when I say who is the interlocutor, I mean, who are these ethical codes for? They are for everyone, but the people who are developing AI or deploying AI, are they really aware of those codes, and do they have any interest in complying with them? Slides, please. And the next question is, real life comes with ethical dilemmas. So we of course know, um, if we have a one choice question like, is lying good or bad? We would also say that of course it's ethically bad and wrong. But if we have a dilemma, slide please, then it is really difficult to determine which principle or which value should be protect to sacrifice the other one. So please don't answer this question loud, but ask yourselves, is there anyone who is listening to me who has never lied in his or her whole lifetime? Although we know that lying is bad, we do it. Why do we do it? Because we face with ethical dilemmas, and we think that's better than the worst. So these guidelines, they are falling short to guide us when we are facing ethical dilemmas. So, slide, please. The next question is, why is AI ethics so complex? So why can't we apply the existing ethical approaches to AI and just move on? Slide, please. One of the reasons for that is there are some fundamental differences between conventional technology artifacts and artificial intelligence artifacts. When I'm talking about conventional technology artifacts, I'm also including weak AI expert systems to conventional technology artifacts as well. So what are these properties that are essentially different from artificial intelligence? The first one is that conventional technology artifacts, capabilities, and functions are determined and controlled by human beings. The second one is that the pathways of their operations and functions are known by human beings. They cannot self-evolve, self-learn, or self-generate. They lack high-level functions which require intention, creativity, and strategy. They need humans to create any consequences in the physical world. And the last one is humans produce them. And when we are talking about AI, especially generative AI, well, almost all of these properties are foggy. So we don't really know. Think about the black box problem. We don't really know their capabilities and functions and how they operate. And they can self-evolve, self-learn, and self-generate, of course. And they all express some kind of intention, creativity, and strategy. We know that. We have already seen it. And they don't need humans. They don't always need humans to create any consequences in the physical world, or more, worse, they can use humans to create consequences in the physical world by twisting the reality in somehow. What I know that what I'm saying is some kind of a provocative sentence, but we can discuss this more if there are any questions. And we don't always need humans to produce them. We know that, a special generative AI can write some codes and just duplicate. So slide, please. So these are the main reasons why AI is inherently different than conventional technology, and why we need a new ethical framework for AI. Slide, please. So another reason, I mean, apart from these six properties, another reason why AI ethics is so difficult or complex is that AI has a very huge radical innovation capacity, meaning that it is introducing inherently different way of doing things, and there is a high diffusion capacity, which means that AI operates in various domains and even every domain of our life. That is why AI, together with digitalization, is the new long phenomenon, um, or a new way of doing things that affect the whole system or the entire structure of society. Slide, please. So when we're talking about long wave phenomena, slide, please. We see that AI is endorsed by digitalization, and digitalization is endorsed by AI. And as more data is digitalized and provided to AI for machine learning and deep learning purposes, its capacity to initiate and urge a set of interconnected radical innovations that affect all levels of society and individual life, business and governance enhance. Slide, please. So,
Just a sec.
slide, please. Okay.
There.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, slide, please. And with this enhancement, AI diffuses into new domains of life or dives deeper into the ones which it has already diffused into. Slide, please. And again, slide, please. And this trajectory presents constellations of radical innovations interconnected in several domains of life, which initiates and embraces an irreversible paradigm shift in techno-scientific and techno-cultural spheres. Slide, please. And all these changes, the long wave phenomenon that we're experiencing now, leads to social moral change. Slide, please. So, what is social moral change? Well, social moral change is the change in people's moral beliefs and moral practices, and it operates in two, let me say, orders. The first one is the pragmatic moral mediation and hermeneutic moral mediation. So, what I mean by pragmatic moral mediation is that technology adds or subtracts morally charged decisions from our lives, like the new moral questions raised by generative AI. Before the launch of generative AI to public, the discussions about AI ethics was very much limited to ethical concerns emerging from expert systems or weak AI systems. And most of the scholars who work in this area used to refuse to discuss the potential ethical risks or concerns that will be presented by strong AI, which, generative AI is a form of strong AI. So they thought that it was some kind of a science fiction. And since it's not real, we don't have to. They say that we don't have to discuss them. What now we're seeing that we have the generative AI with us, and together with it comes new moral questions. And when I say hermeneutic moral mediation, I mean interpreting some aspects of the world differently than we used to before digitalization. So the one of the examples of hermeneutic moral mediation is the use of life-sustaining machines. Since the prehistoric times, for a physician, the easiest diagnosis was to determine if the patient is alive or dead. Um, I mean, physicians could tell it right away. But since we have the life sustaining machines, the definition of death changed. Now, there are several types of death. There is cardiovascular death, there is brain death, there is persistent vegetative state, and lots of types of death. So now we are interpreting death differently than we used to do before life sustaining machines. And coming to second and third order effects, they mean the impact of the first order effects on economy, business, service supply, or other aspects. And the second and third order effects have a reciprocal impact on the first order effects to determine how existing values are changing now and will continue to change in the future. Slide, please. Oops.
Just um, just that sorry,
It's
I have
okay.
a question. I didn't know if my microphone was on, so I'll go back to the slide
It's
and
okay.
show it. And my question has to do with all these new effects you were talking about.
Uh-huh.
Um, it occurred to me that maybe you also meant that, but you can change responsibility. So you think differently and you say, I'm no longer responsible. It's not my problem. It's AI that's deciding for me. And therefore, I do not have an ethical issue here because AI has decided. Is that also part of the things you were discussing or not?
Well, not specifically.
Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to explain why AI ethics is complex and why
Okay.
we need
Okay. Yeah.
a new type of thinking because the concepts are changing
Uh-huh.
and the questions are changing. So
Okay.
trying to answer them or address them the way we used to do is not enough because the content of those concepts has changed. Like when we say death, we mean many things now because there are
Yes.
types of death now. So I'm
Yeah.
not just
Okay. Thank you. No, no, no,
specifically.
no. Sorry I
Okay.
interrupted.
Okay, no, no, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you for asking. So, slide, please. So, this is
Slide,
the book we
slide.
published on artificial intelligence and bioethics, and this was, published in 2020. And we talked about the ethical issues of AI in this book, but since the launch of generative AI, I think this book has to also be updated. Slide, please, because what Gen AI is presenting to, especially in the field of science and open science, needs a new chapter for discussions. Because and this is an example of social moral change as well. So, slide, please. And why is AI ethics difficult? Well, the items that I listed here, the first one is epistemic complexity. I think that most of us lack full comprehension of what AI is. We don't know how it works. We don't know how it uses data. We don't know how it synthesizes data. Of course, we have some ideas. Everybody in the field of AI has some ideas, but the epistemic complexity makes it very difficult to comprehend the borders or the real frame of the problem that we are having. The second one is uncertainties of determination of the accountable or the responsible one. And this is both legal and ethical accountability and responsibility. The third one is normative approaches are never fast enough to catch up with the progress of technology. We think that we are regulating one part of the technology or the ethical issues presented by AI, but I mean, as soon as we do it or while we are doing it, we are seeing another cloud of or a group of ethical issues arising because of a new improvement. So normative approach seems so static and slow to meet the or to yes to meet the ethical issues presented by the technology. Another one is the impossibility of effective regulation of or oversight and turbidity of legislative power. And of course, there are huge variations in depth and effectiveness of social moral change among different domains. I'm going to talk about it a little more in the next slide. And there are sectoral risk and benefit balance differences, and there are too many stakeholders. So having too many stakeholders in the field, I mean, who are working in the AI, like people from medicine, like the people from computer science, ethics, social sciences, humanities. This is a difficulty, but I think this is also an opportunity for us because having a participatory approach is the way to solve complex problems in bioethics. Slide, please. Slide, please. So ethics has two dimensions. The first one is critical thinking, and this was what we were doing until this slide. And the second one is constructive thinking. So ethics is not only asking wise questions, but we also have to be able to find some answers to them. So what are the answers that we had we to the questions that we have been asking until now? Slide, please. To pave our way to a kind of constructive thinking, first we have to look at the ethical issues and list them. So this slide shows the general ethical issues and domain-specific ethical issues of weak AI systems. And when I say weak AI systems, I mean expert systems mainly. So the general ethical issues or the social moral change induced by digitalization are clustered in a group starting with bias and discrimination and privacy and confidentiality, the diminished importance and impact of human autonomy, and the vanity of human workforce, handing task over to expert systems, or annihilation of real interpersonal interaction, depletion of human intelligence and survival ability, lack of fairness in access to technology, security and public surveillance. So these items can be listed in terms of general ethical issues presented by weak AI or expert systems. But of course, there are very significant domain-specific ethical issues also, like in finance, in medicine, in the military. So these sectors are among the sectors in which AI is used very much and improving very in a very let me say vastly. But the bias and privacy and confidentiality issues in finance is different than they are in medicine or in military. So even if we have these general issues, ethical issues in different domains, the way we address them in that domain may change. For example, the way we handle security and public surveillance versus privacy and confidentiality of individuals in the context of military may be different than the way we address them in the context of medicine. So we should be aware of this difference as well. Slide, please. And then there are a second set of ethical issues which are presented by or added by generative AI, or let me say some kind of a strong AI that we are experiencing now. So the first group is some kind of meta level questions like superintelligence, singularity, irreversible change in human nature, or end of anthropocentric paradigm. And the second group is governance, democratization, and global security, problems about them. And the third group is generation of scientific knowledge, ethical issues in publication, ethics like authorship, accountability, and responsibility, diminishing trust in science, infodemics, which we experienced during COVID-19 pandemic, problems with responsible conduct of research, And data ethics. Data ethics is a huge part of AI ethics because um, data is seen as some kind of a fuel for AI development, but especially in the field of medicine, data is coming from individuals, real people. So data ethics, open science, data ownership and control, and especially multi-center research or transfer of cross-border transfer of data. These are the ethical issues which are presented or even amplified by generative AI. Slide, please. So, ethics by design seems to be a very handy tool, like ethical sensitivity that continues throughout the whole entire life cycle of AI, starting from the first seeds of thought of AI that in mind to design to generation of AI, deployment, use, and reuse of AI. So ethics by design throughout the whole life cycle of AI. And also we should keep in mind that some AI can be inherently unethical too. I'm not going to speculate a lot about this sentence, but if there are any questions, we can discuss more on this sentence as well. Slide, please. Okay, so ethics of access to personal data. Slide, please. Thank you. So the informed consent depends on or grounds on respect for autonomy and protection of privacy and confidentiality of individuals. Slide, please. And consent in big data versus consent in healthcare services, there's some differences. We see that consent in healthcare services are really very taken very seriously, while consent in big data is sometimes, more perfunctory or cursory. Actually, this is related to risk perception. The harm that privacy and confidentiality breaches could cause to an individual or society has not been fully understood, probably, when considering the purpose and prevalence of AI algorithms. Slide, please. So, again, slide, please. This slide shows us fundamental ethical issues in consent procedures for use of artificial intelligence in big data. You see that there are 5 essential elements of informed consent. The first one is information, and we have some problems with it there in terms of AI, because there's some trade secrets that the companies don't want to share. So when they are taking the informed consent, they may not be able to provide whole information or all the relevant information because of trade secrets. And also there's the black box problem, so they may not really know how the algorithm really works. And there is the issue of synthetic data and also long-term impact. We may not be able to predict all the long-term impact of collecting or using that data. So that information may be lacking as well. In terms of comprehension, the informed consent documents should be reader friendly, or recognizing the time required for understanding or answering questions. It is really taking long, and it's seen that in terms of using AI, taking informed consent for using AI, well, people are not mostly reading the informed consent documents, and because of consumer fatigue. And for voluntariness, there is a big problem there as well, because you may not be able to use that application if you don't give the consent that the application wants. So it is some kind of a barrier to voluntariness. And also there is the retraction of consent, which may be impossible in terms of big data, and also the difference between purpose of giving consent and the purpose of use. And I'm not going to go very very much in detail with that. I think we can elaborate on them if there are any questions. And I'm sorry that there is a Turkish sentence there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really
What
sorry.
what is this here?
So it says the responsibilities of the person who is taking the informed consent. Okay?
Responsibility.
Yeah, the responsibilities of the person who is taking the informed consent from the subjects.
Wow.
Yeah. So I made this presentation in the afternoon to another international group in Istanbul, and it was in Turkish, and translated that presentation to English, and then I skipped this one. I'm sorry for that.
No,
But
but
you
this
have
is
seen a
so
little bit
now
Turkish.
we learn Turkish, you know.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
This is
So next
very
slide,
good
please.
for all of us.
Thank you, Claudia.
Do I
Okay, next
change the
slide, please.
slides? Yeah.
Yes, please. So, just a few recommendations for the people who are working in the AI field or using AI for ethical compliance. Providing the intended benefits to the user or society can be achieved without storing or selling data, for example, data visitation. So data visitation is a technique, let me say, that we can have access to data without really storing or purchasing that data. Claudia, me, and two our other colleagues, Francis and Natalie, let me say, are co-chairing an artificial intelligence data visitation working group, and we're working on the ethical, legal implications of AI and data visitation, and it is nearly coming to an end. And I can, or of course, Claudia can provide more information about that project. The deliverables that we are producing are an AI Bill of Rights, guidance on informed consent procedure, guidance for ethics committees, and legal implications of data visitation. And also, we are conducting a survey to see how AI, data visitation, and generative AI is comprehended by academicians to spot the ethical or the role of ethics in regulating AI. And collecting data by determining its quality and purpose instead of gathering unlimited brain data. I mean, not only brain data, but of course, unlimited data, let me say. The fair and cares principles, considering for data integrity. I talked about consent and the role and responsibilities of ethics committees. Let me say a few words on ethics committees' role and responsibilities in the context of AI ethics. Slide, please.
Just a second. What
Okay.
do you sorry, what do you mean by consent except for research purposes?
Okay. So, I mean, consent for research purposes is very well regulated, and
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, now
but
yeah. I'm
consent
sorry.
for other purposes, it's vague.
I see. Okay, let me change the
Okay.
slide.
Okay, thank you. So this is a slide showing the preliminary results, some of the preliminary results of the survey that we are conducting in the AIDV working group. We asked about, we asked to the participants if ethics has a role to play in giving direction and governance of AI and large language models. And like 89% of participants said that, yeah, the ethics has a huge role to play. And they also had a consensus in terms of there should be no restriction on geography, political belief, or any other factor for people to have access to AI or generative AI. And in terms of ethics committees, the participants also said that ethics committee members should receive training to review proposals on AI and LLMs, and ethics committees should review the development of AI and LLMs. And Explicit consent should be required from all users, specifying what data and how their data will be collected, stored, analyzed, and protected. And most of the participants supported the Future of Life Institute call for a pause, at least for 6 months, on the riskiest and most resource incentive AI experiments. So these are the preliminary results, and they are the preliminary results from Turkey, especially because we have conducted the survey only in Turkey, and next week we are planning to have some meetings to see the ways how we can conduct this survey in other countries as well. On Wednesday, we had a meeting for the anniversary of RDA, and we presented the preliminary results there, and we saw that there were lots of interest in conducting this research in different countries. So, slide, please. So I think we're going to have a slide, please. This is the link to the Turkish survey. Okay, so again, recommendations for people who are developing artificial intelligence or who are deploying artificial intelligence for ethical compliance. The high-level expert group on AI in the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI say that there are seven main titles for ethical compliance. The first one is human agency and oversight. The second one is technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, environmental and social well-being, and accountability. So, if you're working on a project that will produce develop an AI system, you have to consider all these items for ethical compliance. Slide, please. And some practical solutions. We are seeing that every day an increasing number of institutions are forming some ethics committees for self-regulation in their own institutions. So I think this is good. We know that some big companies in AI industry have some ethics committees, but we don't know who are the members of these ethics committees and how they make the ethical assessments, what are their primary values or principles. Of course, there should be some kind of a transparency there for trust, but as long as they are transparent, self-regulation and having some ethics committees within the institution is a good way of ethical compliance. It is not enough, but it is a good start. Another practical solution would be having oversight by an external independent body. I think this is even better than self-regulation, but I mean, my knowledge is that there are no external independent bodies that companies or institutions can apply right now. And another practical solution, or let me say a responsibility for all of us, is to endorse governmental, intergovernmental, or supragovernmental regulations in the field. When I say regulations, I'm talking about both ethical and legal regulations. Slide, please. And some other principles to consider is one of them is the precautionary principle. It's like red teaming, and just applying some stress tests to look for gaps and containment of the AI until stress tests prove safety if there's a point like that. Sharing best practices to ensure safety and not allowing autonomy or recursive self-improvement of AI. Openness and transparency is the key. And I think exposing principle is the most important principle for ethical compliance. When I say exposing principle, a chatbot, a generative AI should expose that it is AI when it is interacting with humans in every domain. So either in social media or in assistant services or in medicine or any other, finance, whatever domain it is. The AI application should expose that it is AI. And I think that is the first and utmost important step for openness and transparency. Slide, please. And this is my last slide. So for anybody, if we have among participants who are developing a project on AI, when we are reviewing ethical compliance of AI projects, we look for some kind of a self-assessment list for trustworthy AI. And this list that I'm just showing you right now is a handy tool for that, for your self-assessment that you can use. And slide, please. So this is my email address and my last slide. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or if you would like to contact me, you can use my email address anytime, and I would be very happy to discuss further.
Let me stop presenting. Thank you. I was afraid I was going to cough because I'm coughing all the time. I think there was a question at some point. Oh, so one of our students mentions a quote from one of our researchers in the Northeast. Brazil has already lost the AI war about GPT pioneering. Now, how can Brazil and other nations contribute to GPT platform?
Okay, I'm not sure if I understood the first part of the question. So what did Brazil lose for in terms of
Lose the AI war about GPT pioneering. Okay, so we can
pioneering?
no longer
Okay,
be
okay.
GPT pioneers.
So I don't see development of AI as some kind of a winning or losing thing. I think I'm very much on the participatory approach side. So I am not sure if we're going to have the best approach if we are fighting for pioneering. I think we should be more willing to cooperate and understanding and reflecting all together on ethical issues rather than trying to be the pioneer. Because when I look at the AI strategies of different countries, I always see this concern. Every country wants to be the pioneer. Every country wants to be the champion of AI development because they are taking the standpoint from technological substantivism, and they see technology as some kind of a power, and that power is going to provide them some economic gains or some military gains, and this creates a race that forces us, or that steers us to oversee the ethical problems that we may produce while we're trying to climb the first step of the ladder in the first place.
Mhm.
So that's my standpoint for this question.
Are there any other questions? You raise your hand, or Danilo.
I would like to know, do you know, or do you can say which is a good approach or a project that you see like taking these questions regarding ethical wise like seriously? Can you name a project that you've been working on or something that you think that we could use as like a template for doing it?
For doing what? For doing
For ethical, ethical development of AI. Is that
yes.
what you mean, Danilo?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Well, um, there is not an approach that is accepted globally for ethics of AI. We are still trying to understand what's going on. We are still trying to frame the questions and find ways to do it. So I cannot say that there is a recipe that works for all. But in our book that I showed, the Artificial Intelligence and Bioethics, we proposed a new frame, a new bioethical frame for AI. And that frame, in fact, is, I believe, is a very good start for thinking about AI and approaching issues, ethical issues in a domain specific way. I didn't go into details with that frame because we are trying to, improve it to cover Gen AI as well. But what I can say at this point that it was a good start, and at this point that we are facing the new era of Gen AI, I think having a participatory approach is the most important one. And also, we had to work on creating ethical awareness in all stakeholders, that they all have responsibility to detect, to probe, and to address ethical issues, ethical concerns that may emerge from the AI projects, let me say, that they are working on, and they should also be very um, um, they should also look at the context specific ethical norms while they are trying to address them.
Yeah. I actually have, first of all, thank you. This, I learned a lot. Every time I listen to you, you make me think, which is very good. But then when I start thinking, it's not always very productive, whatever. Yesterday, I was at an event in which it was mostly editors of periodicals from all over Latin America. Okay. And
Mhm.
they were discussing several issues. Um, and there was one very interesting session on multilingualism
Okay.
because one of them said, right now, there's a possibility Google is already providing translations to
Mhm.
indigenous languages. And that will mean that people who do not understand English or Turkish or whatever will have access to knowledge they would not have otherwise.
Mhm.
And then I asked them whether this automated translation or these systems would at the end make us poorer because people will no longer want to learn languages and communicate with others. And then we lose cultural information, we lose all these things that we acquire by learning new languages, including new neuronal paths. Okay.
Yes.
And then the answer was it's really a need to be able to read in your own language so that you have access to things you would not have access to otherwise. However, it's there is always a need to learn other languages because to communicate with other people, you have to think in their languages. So, do you have any comment about that? Because you were a doctor, but there's also the AI aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the example you presented, I'm sorry for that. The example that you presented highlights the general ethical issues that I listed in the weak AI ethical issues page that I was showing you.
Hmm.
So you're talking about annihilation of human capabilities,
Yeah.
and also losing the importance or losing the priority of interpersonal real mm, connection. And we don't need to just try or work hard to learn a new language because we have the smartphone. And when I say here in Turkish, the application just translates it to Chinese so that I can communicate effectively, which leaves me in a position like the Chinese room test, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
So it is some kind of changing of scene. I'm saying something and I'm trusting the AI to translate it in the best way to the person in front of me. Of course, English is not my native language, so when I'm speaking English, I'm making some mistakes. But while the way I use my words, the way I use my tone, the way I try to communicate, even with my hands when I'm using, is some kind of an interpersonal relationship that we lack when we use that. On the other hand, we have huge benefits. Yes, if you don't speak another language, if you don't speak English, then you don't have access to updated scientific information. So it is huge benefit, but also there are the downsides. So we have to think about them as well. Um, I think they're going to find some kind of a balance. And the example you said just reminded me another example that I experienced myself. We are working on a book on psychiatry ethics, and some of the authors of the book, they are not very fluent in English, so they just wrote their chapters in Turkish, and my student translated them to English. But when I looked at the translations of my students, I saw that English they were using was really bumpy. And
Uh-huh.
I said, well, this needs polishing. We have to do something about it. And I looked at some firms which are doing proofreading, and it is really very expensive.
Uh-huh.
Then I said, aha, there's ChatGPT. Let me try it. And the content is produced by us, and we are using ChatGPT only for proofreading and just changing the language to a fluent way. But then I asked the publishing house, which is an international huge publishing house, and I said, is it okay if we use ChatGPT for translation and English perfection purposes? And they said, well, we don't have a policy right now, and we cannot answer your question. And then
Uh-huh.
I wrote an email back and I said, so from your email, is it okay for me to understand that you confirm I can use ChatGPT? And I didn't hear from them for like 2 weeks. And then
Mhm.
I received an email saying that no, you can't, because we don't know the implications of using ChatGPT for these reasons. So what I was talking about epistemic complexity, I'm just saying this. We don't really understand. That is why we are pulling ourselves from some of the benefits that we can have from generative AI because we don't know, and we don't want to operate in an area that we don't know. Okay, so
That's
it
very
works both
interesting.
ways. Yeah,
That's very interesting.
yeah.
And one of the things that was shown, which I thought was very interesting, it does not really have anything to do with AI, but with multilingualism, is they showed how um, language usage is evolving in the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there, unfortunately, I don't have the data, but it's online. I have to get the link to the study, which is a very, very large study. And English is no longer the dominant internet language.
Okay.
Okay, and in fact, Portuguese is among the dominant languages. But they that was the thing I paid attention to. But they think at some point things will stabilize uh, with the number of people that speak the language in the world.
Okay.
But there is a marked decrease of the usage of English in the internet. It started being the first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which was the second, but European languages are among the five top,
Wow,
which
that's
is
really
quite
interesting.
interesting, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was quite interesting. And this has to do, they said, with the usages, right, and access to the internet, that kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
this signals to an overall future of usage of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um, and well, and AI among them. But
Yeah.
anyways, are there any other remarks or questions or no? So, você pode parar de gravar, tá?